Hello, everybody, and welcome to Saulcast.
Instant Take.
We're talking about Season 4, Episode 6 of Better Call Saul, titled Piñata.
I'm Gil.
I'm Adam.
Let's get into it.
All right, Gil. I only ever have good things to say about this show, and today is no exception. I feel like every episode is better than the one before.
I did not like this episode.
You serious?
I'm just kidding. No, no, it was a great episode. We were texting right after the episode ended, and I told you I'm really going to miss this show after this season is done because, I mean, like you said, every episode is better than the previous week because we always want something, and the show gives it to you. I'd like to learn a little bit more about Gus's backstory. Gus monologue, this episode. I really can't stand those brat kids. Saul goes after him this episode. It's every episode gives you what you want, but it asks more questions, and it always gives you what you want in an interesting, unexpected way.
And haven't you always wondered what a rec room would be like if it was designed by Mike?
Yeah, let's talk about Mike. He's an expert at everything. You need to design like a great home entertainment system. He knows how to design it. You know, he knows to put the weights there, a few couches, DVD player. I'd love to know what DVDs he picks out too, by the way. Like, what's Mike's taste in movies?
It's like Free Willy, Air Bud.
What's that one with the talking dogs? Beethoven?
Yeah, I loved watching them set up the warehouse to make it livable. It sounds like it would be a sweet job to just live in there with your bros for 6 to 8 months, just drinking and digging holes.
Right. It makes you wonder what is going to go wrong in that plot.
Yeah, it does, and we're already getting a taste of it. So at least this Kai fella looks like bad news. Not only am I worried that he's going to cause problems, but I'm also concerned that they might just kill everyone involved in this project at the end.
Oh, that would be really depressing because they've just introduced like this merry gang of Germans, and I really don't want anything bad to happen to them. I wouldn't mind if Kai got a couple knees broken, but the rest of them just seem so friendly and nice. Yeah.
Given that it's an operation run by Gus and Mike, and they're the two most competent people we can think of, you know, maybe it will actually go well. I hope it will. It would surprise me if it went off without a hitch, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. And I'll say that in the spirit of this show constantly introducing characters that will go down in the pantheon of great Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul characters, I think 5 years from now, people will refer to the Germans from Better Call Saul. I think this is a new, they're going to go down in history as that same cast of characters.
Right, as like a peripheral kind of clan of people.
Right, exactly.
Who do you think will go down as more beloved? The Nazis from Breaking Bad or the Germans from Better Call Saul?
Oh, I was consciously avoiding making that comparison because on the surface it's Germans, and then you've got white supremacist Nazis, which immediately makes you think of Germans. But these guys they're no Nazis. That's not.
No. I like these guys. Even Kai, I mean, he was funny. It's just he's not taking it seriously enough.
We'll see. I'm gonna put it out there right now that I think that when the work starts, Kai is he's gonna set himself straight. He's gonna get focused.
Yeah, I think it's possible. I mean, the main German engineer person vouched for him.
Exactly, and it would be they're setting it up that Kai is gonna screw things up, which means that's the obvious way for the story to go. So I'm hopeful and expecting that it doesn't go that way.
Yeah, it could turn out Kai's an asset for all we know.
Exactly.
Yeah. When he asked, about if there are going to be any women, and Mike said...
Yeah, anything within reason?
Yeah, does that mean he was saying, like, sure, we'll hook you up?
I think that's exactly what he was saying.
Okay. Sounds like a great job.
Yeah.
Speaking of great jobs, looks like Kim is making some moves.
Right, and I don't know how well that one's going to work out for her. It seems like Jimmy even called it out in the scene saying, oh, you basically figured out how to have your cake and eat it too. But I don't see how taking on more responsibility and running a bank department is going to free her from the level of responsibility she has having Mesa Verde as a client. I get the theory. She's going to have people working for her, so she'll be able to work on the pro bono cases. But speaking from experience, when you become a manager, you do less of the grunt work, but managing a team takes a lot of time. And I can't imagine running a department while on the side doing this other work.
Right. I think what she's going for here is a half measure, which we know Mike would advise against. And like you said, having her cake and eating it too. She thinks she found a clever way to get a team of people to work on Mesa Verde so that she has time to do her own thing, when in reality, it's not all that simple. First of all, like you said, she'd have to manage a team, which is a lot of work. But on top of that, Mesa Verde expects her to be the one working directly with them, and she specifically promised that they would be her sole focus. So I don't think this will work out for her.
No. And what do you think was going through Jimmy's head when she told him this? He excused himself, and then he went to the kitchen and sort of clutched at his stomach like he wasn't feeling good. What was going through his head there?
Yeah, he looked sick. It seems like the rug was pulled out from under him, which shouldn't have happened. But that shouldn't have happened because he was making a lot of assumptions that he had no real grounds to make.
Yeah, it reminded me of a scene from the movie Punch Drunk Love with Adam Sandler, where he's on a date at a restaurant with this woman, and then he excuses himself, calmly walks to the bathroom, closes the door, and then beats up the bathroom, like rips out the water faucet, punches the paper towel dispenser, basically excuses himself to express some emotion that he's not comfortable expressing in front of his date that night. And yeah, very similar with Jimmy. I think he was, like you said, making a lot of assumptions, and because of that, he's disappointed because he already sees the paths diverging. That he had this crazy dream that him and Kim were going to be partners and run a law firm together. And he thinks that Kim is going to be successful in what she's trying to do. Or at the very least, she's on the path that's very different from the one he's on. And I think he already sees that falling apart. But it was, I was impressed with how quickly he seemed to accept it. Even if he hasn't internally accepted it, he at least wants her to believe that he has. And he's sort of setting her free.
Right. That's how I took it, is he doesn't like this and he doesn't feel good about it, but he does say, you should do it, Kim, and I can't ask you to wait around for me. Even though I don't even think that that's the factor here. I don't think it's that she's impatient waiting for him to get his law degree back. Even if he had the degree right, the license right now, I still don't think she'd want to work with him. And even when they first started that practice together previously, they were doing parallel work. It's not like they were actually working on things together.
Right. And the theoretical law firm that they were going to run together, the one that Jimmy has already sketched up some potential logos for. So last week you said that you think when Jimmy gave his speech to the PPD officer, although he was saying we're going to have the biggest law firm and we're going to, take on the best cases or whatever, in his mind, you said that he's actually thinking about becoming Saul Goodman, becoming a criminal lawyer. Mm-hmm. When he was, it's really hard for me to wrap my head around him thinking Kim would go along with that and they would be partners. Do you still believe that when Jimmy was drawing those logos and talking to Kim about starting a law firm together, he was anticipating that being a criminal, a law firm that really helps criminals the way Saul Goodman does?
I think I saw it working the same way that their previous one did, where they were working in parallel but not on the same types of cases. So I think that's maybe the way Jimmy conceived of it, which is why he was able to see them as compatible in his head. I think they're not compatible, but the way he kind of kept this fantasy or illusion going was maybe based a little bit on that past experience.
So Kim can run the legitimate cases, and she just doesn't have to be aware of some of these things that Jimmy's doing.
Yeah.
In the meantime.
Yeah. And maybe in his wildest dreams, Kim became Giselle, and they got to do this stuff together. Maybe that's what he would like ultimately, to have a real partner in crime. I don't think that's what his expectation was, but that's the dream.
And Giselle, by the way, what's that?
That's the pseudonym that Kim would use back when they were scamming people at that restaurant.
Gotcha.
And they actually made reference to that in this episode.
Oh, which reminds me, by the way, last episode I also talked about the many callbacks to earlier seasons. Another one I forgot to mention is that Jimmy's back at the salon working out of the back room where he's keeping all of his cell phones.
Oh, yeah. I love the interactions between Jimmy and that salon owner.
Yeah, she has no idea how spot on she was about get-rich-quick schemes never work.
Yeah.
So she predicted the end of Breaking Bad before it even started. And none of this was going to work out for Jimmy.
She was on to Walt and Jimmy from the beginning.
Yeah.
She's the unsung
Jimmy,
hero.
Let me tell you something. If you ever run into a man named Walter White, stay away.
if only he listened.
Exactly. If they had that line in the episode, then I might have a criticism. I think they've jumped the shark.
Maybe just a little, yeah.
Yeah. When they introduced that voodoo lady that could see into the future, I don't know. The show lost me. That's where it went off the rails for me.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with you on that one. We also have this great meeting between Jimmy and Howard, which I feel like a scene like this has been percolating and brewing for a couple of episodes now, and it's great to finally have this release. I feel like Jimmy almost treats Howard as a projection of himself. You know, like Howard is kind of the part of Jimmy that's been beat down by Chuck's death and worn out and saddened. That's the part he's been suppressing. And then this scene is Jimmy giving a big old middle finger to any sense of grief or feeling of wanting to give up or anything like that.
So when Jimmy tells Howard to buck up and, pull himself up by his bootstraps and get back to it, he's really talking to himself.
Yeah. And I think so, because as soon as that happens, that's when we see Jimmy take that big crate full of burners into the store, into the nail salon, and kind of get back on the horse with this side business.
Yeah, that's true. And we get the happy music, monologue, the Jimmy's back to work sequence.
Yeah. And I feel so bad for Howard.
Yeah, where does he go from here? I mean, I was right with him with his fuck you, Jimmy. And that was kind of long overdue with how terribly Jimmy's treated him over the last few episodes. It's hard to imagine Howard. I mean, I feel like he's done with law after this. I can't imagine he'd want to continue practicing. And I don't recall, is Jimmy right when he says that Howard is a terrible lawyer? Do we know that, or is he just saying that?
I think he's just saying that. I don't know if we've been given any evidence that he's a bad lawyer. I don't know how much law we've really seen him practice, but
do you have any prediction on where Howard goes from here?
I think there's a slight chance that the speech works. Yeah, I mean, it did kind of give some, put some fire in his belly.
It worked on me. I was like, I want to go out and do something. I want to buy some phones and sell them to criminals.
Yeah, I liked when Howard referred to their downsizing. The consultants call it right sizing. Knowing that this show takes place in the early 2000s, like as corporate culture was really becoming a caricature of itself, I just thought it fit perfectly. It felt like a real life Dilbert comic.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. We've brought up Dilbert a couple times on this show because Better Call Saul does as good a job at sort of capturing the bizarreness of the workplace and some of the ridiculousness you see there, does just as good a job as Dilbert.
Yeah, this show, it's easy to get caught up in like all the criminality and the the character development, but it will go down as a workplace drama in a way. Like, I don't know of any other TV show that explores the concept of work and the workplace as thoroughly as this one does, and the effect that it has on the soul.
Exactly. I think most shows that explore the workplace and the mundaneness of the workplace do it through a pure filter of comedy. Shows like The Office. Mm-hmm. And Better Call Saul has comedic elements, but more and more it's a drama. And it shows you the soul-sucking nature of being at a profession which doesn't fit with your goals, your desires. Better than any other show, I think this show does that.
Absolutely. One last thing about Howard and Jimmy. Did it almost seem to you like Jimmy legitimately wants to see HHM succeed? I got the impression that he really did think that it would be a crime for HHM to just kind of wither away and die.
Yeah, it reminded me of the episode where the Nazis kill Hank. And right before they kill him, Walt is pleading. Like, please, Hank, you've got to tell them that you're not going to talk. And Hank tells him, you're the smartest man I know, but you're too stupid to see that he made up his mind 10 minutes ago. This is a done deal. That reminded me of, I thought of that when I saw Jimmy sort of pleading. Like, you can't let HHM die. And he just doesn't realize how dire a situation it is and the fact that HHM is over. I'm having a hard time understanding exactly why he doesn't want to let go of it. In a way, you might expect him to want to see it crash and burn, considering it's maybe the last legacy that remains of his brother, who he obviously didn't get along so well with. It seems like he doesn't have great memories of HHM. So I don't know exactly, maybe it's just nostalgia. I don't know exactly what's preventing him from letting go.
Yeah, I think nostalgia might be part of it, because in the end, this is where he got his start. He climbed up there from the mailroom, as we see at the beginning of this episode. So he kind of had his humble beginnings there. I could see him having some kind of attachment to it.
It's also where he met Kim, so that might add to the attachment.
True. So I think for him, HHM is still a special place, and probably something that in his mind was, this beacon and something that was unshakable. And so there just seems something wrong about it going under. And I felt the same way.
It's been, like you said, it's where he got his start. At times it's been the villain of the show, at least from Jimmy's eyes. So naturally a part of you just doesn't want to see it go.
Speaking of not wanting to see a villain go, how about Hector?
Do you believe that Gus's monologue is a true story? Or is this like the Joker, where he just hands out origin stories that aren't necessarily true?
Like next episode, he's going to hand out an origin story about chopping down the tree and burning it for wood. Or burning it as firewood.
We know that there was a tree involved in his origin. We just don't know exactly what role the tree played. He either burned it down or...
He uses the fruit, and then he tortures a coyote. I don't know.
Well, the story just seemed so... on the nose. Yeah. He literally was defending the fruits of his labor. That's not even a metaphor. And then, as if to tell Hector, I'm a psychopath, he tells a story about torturing small animals.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. I was thinking about that like serial killer triad.
Yeah, so I have to wonder if maybe he's embellishing a little bit. Maybe there was a tree with fruit on it, but... I don't know. I wonder if this is purely just a made-up story.
I think it's a real story, and I have a very roundabout explanation as to why.
All right. I want to hear it. I would love to hear it.
All right, here we go. I think this scene is not only meant to give us a little more insight into Gus's backstory and why he is the way that he is, but it's also meant to put on display one of Gus's few but major flaws. When he's done giving this monologue about basically how much purpose he gets out of the need to punish those who have wronged him, in a systematic and prolonged way. Right after he finishes this monologue, he gets up out of his chair in exactly the same way that he gets up out of his chair before he gets blown up in season 4 Breaking Bad. Okay? Not only that, but after he gets up, we see the way the light is hitting his face, half of it is in shadow and half of it is lit up, and it looks similar to the way half of his face got blown off. Finally, a few moments later, he adjusts his suit the same way he did right before he collapsed and died. And to me, it's saying, like, this is the mentality or the emotion that Gus, that represents Gus's main flaw. His need to do this is what leads to his death in the end. And so this scene to me was like just a display of Gus's main character flaw.
I agree with everything you just said. And I'll say, I don't know if the story is true or not, or if it's meant to be true, but I think that even if it's not literally true, all the concepts behind it are accurate.
Right.
The main takeaway for me, and I think essentially what you were just saying, Gus has an obsession with justice, or really revenge. And that is one of his, well, not one of his, it is his major downfall. And I'd really like to go back and rewatch that scene now, side by side with the face-off scene from Breaking Bad, and
totally
see how right you are about all that.
Yeah, we should do that, and I think I'm pretty into this parallel here, and I think we should talk about it more on the Full Take later this week. And one last thing that this has in common with that last scene, and it's pretty superficial, but in both cases, it's him taunting Hector in a medical setting. It's like, it's so similar to that other scene that I think the parallel has to be intentional. Speaking of revenge, Jimmy finding those little punks who mugged him was so satisfying.
Now, when he was getting chased by those kids, were you at all worried, or did you think he's got a plan?
I knew he had a plan. I just knew it.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
I had no doubt from the start of that scene. He learned his lesson. He wasn't going in there just to talk. He knew that wasn't going to work.
I guess it's a good thing he was wearing that tracksuit.
Yeah. I love the tracksuit.
Yeah.
He's going back out there. He doesn't need to put the tracksuit on. They already know him. They know who he is, but that's his cell phone selling uniform. Yeah,
that's like the equivalent of Walt's Heisenberg hat. That would be if that hat is to Heisenberg what the tracksuit is to Saul Goodman.
Yeah, not Saul Goodman. We've got 4 personas now. You've got Jimmy, Saul, Gene, and cell phone guy.
Oh yeah.
When that kid was hanging upside down, well, tell everyone, leave the cell phone guy alone.
Oh yeah. I really liked that they called him that. We know that's going to be his reputation now.
Yeah, I can't wait to see how long the cell phone guy persona lasts.
Yeah, I just love the idea of there's this one like cell phone dude who everyone knows is off limits. It's like the one guy in jail who's not in a gang, but everyone knows not to mess with him for some reason.
Yeah, you see, look, listen. There's a guy that walks around the hot dog stand dressed in a tracksuit. Stay away from that guy.
Yeah.
I heard he once hung a bunch of kids upside down in a room full of piñatas. Piñatas!
I don't mess with piñatas, dude.
Yeah.
That scene was awesome. I love that Saul just has access to these goons who can intimidate people for him.
Oh, Huel, by the way.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, was that definitely Huel?
Oh, yeah. It was definitely Huel.
Okay, because he looked a little too short, but I was like, but his face looks just like him.
And I think Huel's a pretty short guy.
Okay, and I think Ira might be fairly tall, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was awesome, though. I love that Saul didn't resort to unnecessary violence as much as I wanted those kids to. I mean, I wanted him to kill them,
Oh, yeah.
But I like that he didn't do more than necessary, and in fact, this achieves more, because if they really do spread the word that Saul is not to be trifled with, or Jimmy, the cell phone guy, that's great. He can conduct his business more in the open now.
And we know, you and I both know that in reality, this is not a positive step for Jimmy. This is him becoming violent. But let's not talk about that right now, all right? Let's just bask in the enjoyment of those punk kids getting what's coming to them. And then on the full take, we'll let future Gil and Adam worry about what this means for Jimmy's character and, the fact that he's walking down a dark, potentially irredeemable path.
Yeah, I would say that, like, the instant take is more for us to bask in. This is when we are in the Jimmy mindset, the Jimmy and Saul Goodman mindset. The full take, we're more of a Gene kind of persona.
Right. We're having a good time right now.
Yeah. And
then later, we'll get more solemn and we'll take it in. We'll digest it a little bit.
Exactly. So stay tuned for that coming later this week in just a few days.
When, I forget who said it, but when he said that he has a bad infection, did you think they were talking about Nacho? Because that's what I thought they were. I 100% thought it was about Nacho.
I totally forgot about that. In fact, I forgot about Nacho. 2 episodes without him, and I forgot about him.
Yeah, furthering our theory that Nacho is unfortunately no more.
Yeah, Nacho's passed away, and the fact that everyone doesn't realize it just goes to show you guys aren't paying attention.
Yeah, this is like Stranger Things season 1. I won't spoil anything, but a certain character dies, and it seems like nobody in the show cares about it, and it became a big deal on the internet. This is Nacho now, and I am appalled, frankly, at the fact that no one's talking about this. Okay, one of my favorite characters dies off screen of all things.
Yeah. But no, I was pretty sure they were just talking about Hector.
Right, no, that makes sense, and obviously you were right.
There we go. I like to end on that note, that I was right.
Yeah. That's fine.
Yeah.
Remember how, this show is like invading my life. Like, remember last week when I told you how they had the awkward hug scene between Saul and his secretary, and I had the hug incident myself like a week ago? Last episode that you and I talked, I learned a little bit of German. Remember that?
Oh, yeah.
I get an email at work today that asks, can anyone speak German?
No way.
I did. I wanted to reply and say, "Me so schlecht ich squitze gleich ins Auto." I could say that. I could say I know how to. I'm going to throw up, but that's pretty much it.
You got the job.
I'm Gil.
I'm Adam. And this is Saulcast.
Instant Take.
Thanks, everyone, for listening to this week's Instant Take. We'd love to interact with you, get some questions, have some topics that we can discuss from our audience on the full take later this week. So we would love for you to get in touch with us on Twitter. Our handle is @SaulcastPod, all one word. You can also email us at saulcastbros@gmail.com. Those are great ways to get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you and talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. It doesn't even have to be related to Better Call Saul. We can give life advice. You've heard Gil talk about his hug situation. We touched a little bit on his romantic life at points. I think he has a lot of experience that might benefit all of you.
And to, I think, our favorite follower who wanted us to talk more about the twins' boots. There's more of that coming. We just gotta wait for them to show up again.
Yeah. Once they come back from Mexico, we'll have a whole boot update for all of you.
Special boots only episode. That's all we're talking about.
That's right. All boots, all the time.
Bootcast.
And finally, don't forget to leave a review and a rating for us on the Apple Podcasts app. It's real simple. If you just find our podcast in the app, which, in all likelihood, you're the one you're using that app right now to begin with. You just got to tap on that star rating. It'll boost us in the search results. More people will find us, and we could build a nice, fun community where we can all get together to talk about this show and have lots of interesting things to discuss week after week.
And I do want to say that in a previous episode, I offered $1 to anybody that left a rating. I think it's pretty clear that deal was only valid until the next episode. So that deal's off the table. But you know what's more valuable than $1? The knowledge that you made my day and you made Adam's day. And that's exactly what you'll be doing, even if you just leave a rating without a review. If you leave a review, you'll make my week. I'll be so happy and so thankful. Do we usually say anything? Ow!
What was that?
The closet wall. Oh yeah, you can see right here the door. I hit my elbow on it.
Oh, that might be good to put after the song. What you just said.